The coffee up there. I don't know how, but I'm having to shotgun this thing. It keeps leaking. So I'm trying to drink it before I'm fucking covered in it. So Phil Collins is a lizard. Because of course he is, right? Now I ran into this, I don't know, a couple months back. The same thing, and I did a video on it. I'm not looking for these things. It's not my forte, or as the French say, 40. It's just the veil shows you stuff. The disintegrating veil will show you things, and you know, where you don't expect to see them. So a few months ago was this YouTuber I was watching that you wouldn't really think would be, well, I mean, I don't know what people are and what kind of people aren't. Apparently they're all over the place. I don't know much about them. I haven't spent much time researching it because for me that kind of falls under the physical column, where I do more of the metaphysical concerns, because ultimately that's going to control the physical. So yeah, there's apparently lizard reptilian beings that live here among us, and they disguise themselves as humans, and I don't know a lot about them except that they come from underground. They still supposedly have a lot of working cities under there, all this other kind of stuff. They are usually in prominent positions, politicians, you know, actors, musicians, that kind of stuff. That tree looks cool with the is that the Chinese New Year thing? I think they do that for Chinese New Year. But it can be a lot of different people, like the YouTuber I was talking about. Well, there was a plant. He's kind of a plant. But anyway, in this case, getting to Phil Collins, he did an interview in 1981. Oh God, what's going on over here? Uh-oh. It's the it's like a Jonestown reenactment. And here I am, I already have a drink. He's doing an interview in 1981 at a New York radio station. He was promoting his album About Face, which was his first solo album. And this album came between Genesis Records, as he stayed with the band and ran a solo career for most of the 80s and into the 90s. So he was just on there promoting that. And aside from the weird stuff, it's funny to hear him talk about how he wanted to make a more black record. How he wanted black sounds. He wanted to get a black producer. He mixed it like a black record. Which I think what he means by that is, I don't know what he means by that. Because he said it's less bass, but these days I would think it would be more bass, but something about the mid-range stuff. Anyway, he was using that term a lot, and there are people in the comments that were like freaking out. It's like, no, people used to talk like that. It wasn't even like a racist thing. It was just, you know, this would be before hip-hop. So you had R&B stations or soul music stations or things like that would be called black stations. And, you know, black records did have a certain sound. They had producers who would make black records. And he was at the radio station trying to talk to the program director who would handle the black music, because he had a single out, Missed Again, which is great, good song, that he wanted to get to cross over. And he was just talking about the resistance to that, how segregated it was at that time. It really was. But the interview starts off pretty normal, although he seems uncharacteristically kind of haughty, like he's not his regular humble self. Seems maybe like he had a bit of some booger sugar or something. I don't know if he's ever been known to do cocaine, but I kind of can tell when someone's on cocaine. And that guy, yeah, so it seems normal at first until his tech starts failing. Now the tech they use to create this imagery of a real person over them is based in liquid crystal. I don't know exactly how it works. I think there's an organic component to it, and I only say that because I've seen videos, one in particular with Ringo Starr in the 1970s, and his shit was failing. And what it looked like is he looked like he had a device on his head that may have been helping create the holographic image, but it also looked like it could have been like an animal, like a lizard or something. I don't know how they do it. There's other guys that are a lot more knowledgeable on this kind of stuff. But anyway, his shit starts failing. Hard. And this is how it always happens. Like, you'll notice one little thing, and then they notice their shit is failing. So they start to get a little nervous, I think. And I think that makes it worse. So he starts doing all the things. He's pulling the mic over in front of his mouth. He's fidgeting with his eye. The cameraman sees this is happening, and he does a hard pan, putting Phil way in the corner of the room. I mean, this guy got as far away from him as he could without going into the next room and shooting through the window. So they know, what's going on. And I'll put pictures of it up here, and the video's up. You can check it out yourself. People will say, oh, it's just film distortion, but if you look at the distortion, and it's the same in all these cases, you can see that it's only around the person is where the distortion is. The background behind them is relative, it just stays the same. It has nothing to do with the tape or anything, because it looks like it's a different kind of static when you tape. Has like a wear in it. There are other people that can explain how this see, I don't want to have to talk to this guy right now because I'm doing the Phil Collins thing. We're gonna have to pass on this one, guys. We're gonna have to pass on this one. There's another one. I don't know if it's demonic though. Sometimes some of these guys really are just fucking looking for attention. So it's hard to tell. Usually the demonic thing is a lot of screaming, a lot of babbling. There's usually some Latin thrown in there. How you doing, buddy? All right. Yeah. It's different. It's more like violent, kind of. I guess is a good. You can tell. You can tell. You can hear it. It's louder than that. What was going on in there? Those guys are just dancing. They're definitely fucked up. But I mean, could be drugs. But anyway, this is what happens in all those situations where they start losing, their tech starts breaking down. If I had to guess, I would say it's tied to their central nervous system, because their reaction has a lot to do with how bad it fails. And it's almost like, when you're trying to do something, he's a drummer, Phil, when, sometimes drummers, you're trying to get a part. And you're like, no, that's not it. No, it's not it. And as they keep trying it, sometimes they get worse. I think it's kind of like the same thing. Like, he knows it's failing. He's trying to pull it together. So, and then things start getting weird with what he's saying. He starts to seem like he's still answering questions, but it seems like he's a bit more, and it could be because his stuff's breaking down, but he seems like he's a bit more distant from it. And the interview ends with these lines. They're about to introduce, because like after a couple minutes of this going on, they're just like, all right, Phil, you gotta go. Obviously they're gonna pull that stuff together, So he's like, we're gonna play another song from your new album, and do you want to tell us, introduce it or talk about it? And my man goes, well, it's like the Marx Brothers. Who that man? Who that man? The innocence of children. Set the controls for the heart of the rainforest. That's what he says. And then like, all right, Phil. He just starts babbling this stuff. So I looked into what he said, and especially the who that man, and this is what I got. Gabriel pops up. He mentioned Peter Gabriel quite a bit in the interview. He seemed a little salty that people respect Peter Gabriel more than Genesis, and that when the DJ said, yeah, this song, In the Air Tonight, when they played it, he's like, it sounds, the drums on it, the whole mood of it sounds like a Peter Gabriel thing. And he got a bit mad about that. He's like, no, because that was me on the Peter Gabriel album. I came up with that drum sound, and the reason people want to give him credit for it is because he gets more respect than we do. And he does. Like Peter Gabriel, I don't know how he did it, but he somehow pivoted himself, whereas Genesis remained on pop and classic rock stations. Peter kind of ended up on the alternative music stations, or what would become known as alternative music. Growing up in Boston, we had a station called WFNX. That was, I didn't appreciate it at the time because I was just into like metal and heavier kind of punk music. But FNX was like post-punk. It was great, but I didn't appreciate it at the time. You know, they'd play stuff like, you know, The Cure or Wire or Joy Division, and Peter got, you know, put right in with that group. He was considered that kind of artist, avant-garde, whatever. He was considered that kind of artist, and even though his music wasn't all that far away from Genesis, when you listen to something like Mama, that sounds a bit like a Peter Gabriel song, and you know, Peter Gabriel's stuff like Not One of Us would almost sound like something that could be done with Genesis, you know. So, but there was some kind of he positioned himself in a way that he became a bit more hip. I think a lot of that has to do with his political thing, moving in that direction. I think gained him a lot of goodwill. You know, because there are a lot of people in music that applaud that, and you know, he did some good things. You know, I don't think the WOMAD thing was kind of interesting. He lost money on it because he was paying too much out, and at the time there just wasn't the interest for it, so he ended up losing money on it. Phil Collins has said before in other places where Peter is a very and ah guy. I can relate. I'm a very and ah guy too. And what he was trying to say is that he comes up with concepts, but he's not super good on the execution of managing maybe the financial or business end of it. So WOMAD kind of fucks him over at first, and then they had a Genesis reunion with Peter Gabriel, a concert. I think it brought something crazy. I want to say 70,000 people or 65,000 people to see them reunite for one gig in 1982. You can find copies of it online, you know, bootlegs of it. They should have filmed it. They say that now, that for posterity they should have filmed it, but they were afraid it was going to suck, and it was all right. You know, Peter, the best part is Peter wanted to play drums, right? He fancies himself a drummer. So he gets behind the kit during Turn It On Again. Famously, that song has an extra beat in it, so it's not, you don't play it the way it sounds, and he got fucked up with that, but like anybody would, right? So, yeah, so the Phil Collins thing was interesting. I don't know. I don't know this reptilian thing. I mean, they're around. They're around. If I had to, they're not demons. People call them demons. They're not demons. Demons are incorporeal. You can't see them. The only way you can is if they go into a body. That's the only way you can communicate with them. At this current time, the way they're trying to rip holes open in the dimensionally, who knows? There could come a point where we'll be able to see them in their actual. You know, I think I talked about that possibility of that happening, like hey, this is the end kind of situation. It's fine, whatever. But these things aren't demons. I don't even think they're necessarily from hell. I look at them as, or from whatever Satan derives from. Here, really, this is his place. But they're kind of like subcontractors, in my opinion. It sounds silly, but I think that's kind of what it is. They're working for him and with him, but I think they're more organic to this place. It's a nut I could crack a little better if I looked into. I'm just not interested, man. You know, there's some things that you have to kind of make decisions on stuff sometimes, because I don't. There's just so much stuff. I would need to constantly be on meth to manage even a portion of the kind of things that I find interesting. Hey, cop! Oh, two cop. Somebody must have been jaywalking. Somebody must have been jaywalking. Don't blame the teacher, blame the school.